All right, we're back. You're listening to the Fran Halloran Show. I am Fran Halloran. You're listening to us on Columbia's local talk radio experience, The Point, 95.9 FM, 1470 AM. We're in segment number 2. And let me just tell you, folks, my inbox was loaded with emails while we took a little time off. Over the holidays, we got bombarded with all kinds of questions, all kinds of great inquiries, if you will, as to what we're doing with Intentional Planning Group, and I wanted to share a few of those emails with you today. One of them, well, let's just get started. Coach Fran, I was wondering if you could remind me what I need to do with the deductions on my paycheck. Is there something I need to change on my deductions in order to prevent getting a huge tax refund and having more money in my pocket now? Yes, absolutely. This is actually a young lady that we have done some coaching with. So I purposely don't mention names on the radio because I understand if you're struggling a little bit financially, the last thing you want to do is have it aired out all over the radio. So that's why I'm a little vague here. But absolutely, let me tell you how to handle this. If you want to keep from getting a huge refund, then you need to update your W-4. It's really as simple as that. It's all about the number of allowances you can claim at the bottom of that form. And the allowances are based on kind of a series of questions or prompts on the W-4 itself. Now, in general, the fewer allowances you claim, the more money will be held and the larger your return. So the inverse of that is that the more allowances you claim, less money will be withheld and the smaller your return, i.e. the more you should bring home. Now remember, I'm not a tax guy. I pay my accountant a lot of money so that I don't have to do all this stuff myself. So I always tell people it's best for you to sit down and talk with an accountant, a CPA even, and get the absolute right way to handle it. But I'm pretty sure I'm telling you correctly, you need to make some adjustments on your W-4 and you'll be in the right frame of mind to either bring home more or to get a bigger refund. I personally want I want to zero it out at the end of every tax season. I don't want a big refund. I don't want to give the government a tax-free loan. I want to zero it out. So great question, super question. Coach Fran, do all mortgage companies sell their loans? Well, hey, you know what? I can't answer that. I don't know. But I do know this. Most of them do anymore. Even my good buddies at Churchill Mortgage, when we refinanced, shortly after our refi, it was sold to another mortgage company. And we didn't mind a bit because, frankly, the service and the service after the sale, it's great. So I would say that the vast majority of mortgage companies do sell their loans. I think gone are the days where maybe a small town bank might still hold a loan, small town credit union, but I think most people who loan money for mortgages are selling those loans on the open market because there's a huge demand for them in securities. Brian, did you tell me we had a caller?
Yeah, we got Frankie on.
Hey, well, let's take that call. Frankie. I'm doing well, folks. This is Frankie Griffin. His show's on Fridays. He's the real estate man from 9 to 10. Frankie, to what do I owe the honor of the call? Oh, well. Yes. Yes. Wow. Okay. Good. That's what we're here for. Well, listen, Frankie, you guys made it easy, you and your wonderful wife, Kay. It was easy. That's what we're here to do. And I don't know if you were listening earlier today when I was actually on Kevin's show from 8 to 8:30. We were talking about the fact that we all are kind of in this together and we all want to help one another. And I told Kevin, I think the reason this radio station is working and I think the reason we're attracting people is because the vast majority of us all have one common interest. It doesn't matter what we do for a living, we want to help people. Would you agree with that? And that's why things are working out, and that's why it was so easy for me to help you guys. So it was my pleasure, and man, I can't tell you how much I appreciate your call. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Frankie. Thank you, buddy. Talk to you soon. Take care. Well, that was quite a compliment. So thankful that Frankie gave a call. We did meet on New Year's Day and then I think maybe the day after, just trying to get a few things straight. But you know what, folks? That's what it's all about. I said this on Tazima's show when I was on before the holidays. My prayer every day, and I know that sounds cheesy, but it really is my prayer every day. I want people in my path that I can help. I just pray every day, put someone in my path that we can help. And sometimes we get paid for it, sometimes we don't. It really doesn't matter because it's all going to work out in the end. So to Frankie's point, we're glad to help him. And I'm serious when I say we're going to do this for 5 families starting in the month of January for free this year. We're going to help a lot of people. Let me get back to the emails. Coach Fram, we're really trying to get a hold of our finances, but I just can't seem to get my husband to stick to a written budget. Any ideas as to how I might persuade him? Well, I got to tell you, this one's got me a little stumped because in my world, if I don't do what my wife Susie tells me to do, I get in a lot of trouble and things don't go well for me. So, but that's because we have a partnership and I completely respect what she has to say. She's a smart woman. She is smart in ways that maybe I'm not. So I don't have this particular problem, but I will say that I run across it a lot. And here's what I might suggest. Maybe your approach should be a little different. Now, I'm not assuming anything here. I don't mean to assume anything here, but sometimes when we want people to change a behavior, we nag them. We do it exactly the opposite of how we should. We nag, come on, get on board, do this, we need to do this, we need to do this, we're better than this, come on, get on board, and really what happens then is, I've heard Dave Ramsey say this many, many times, the name becomes a curse word in the family. Because people will say, well, Dave Ramsey said, or Dave Ramsey says, and then that other person says, oh, if I hear that name one more time. Well, I know that happens even with me because I've had plenty of families in my office where mom or dad is upset because the other person is using me. Well, Fran said, and my name becomes a curse word. Here's what I would suggest. Go about it a little differently. Approach your husband in such a way that he can't say no. Honey, we're drowning. I can't save us by myself. I need your help. And if you're not willing to sit down with me and try to stick to this budget, then at least be supportive of what I'm doing and don't work against me. But and then put the plan in action yourself. And maybe if you are not confrontational, maybe if you are not, and again, I don't mean to be negative, if you're not nagging, then maybe he comes around. Because here's what I'll tell you about most of us men. We're not worth a flip until we're about 30 years old. And then after we're 30, we really wise up to the fact that our wives are smart people. So don't give up on him. Just maybe approach it a little differently, Less nag, more, honey, I really need your help. Because we love to rescue people. We love We love to feel like we are the knight in shining armor, swooping in and giving a hand. So if you can make him feel like you really need him, like his participation is absolutely necessary, then I bet you can turn his head. I bet you can turn his head. And of course, if you want to talk about this a little bit off the air, you feel free to call, and we'll talk about it. So anyway, let me get to a couple more of these. Coach Fran, our youngest child just turned 15, and he is asking about a car. How would you go about buying a car for a teenager? Well, it's interesting because I have a couple of teenagers in addition to my other children, and the first thing we did was we made sure our son, Frank, was deserving of a car. Frank's a good kid. He does the right things about 90% of the time. We can trust him. He's making good grades in school. He participates in extracurricular activities, both in sports and at church. So we said, hey, we're going to help you with this. And we bought him what I would call a beater. Very, very inexpensive. And he is helping us pay for the beater, the repairs, the gasoline. We're giving him a little help here. But we are putting the emphasis on his being responsible for the vehicle. Nothing gets done without him having a hand in it. So I would really put the onus on the kid. Maybe you suggest he pay for part of the car. We didn't do that because he wasn't working then, but we bought him an inexpensive car, and he's been paying for repairs and gasoline and oil changes and tires pretty much ever since we bought it for him. We help him a little, but I think it's important that you make sure your kid's doing the right things. If my kid was a turd, I wouldn't be buying him a car. We're up against another break. You're listening to the Fran Halloran Show on Columbia's local talk radio experience, The Point. We'll be back on the other side of this for our third segment.